Countdown. Go live.
Go time.
Go time. We're the biggest Facebook Live dorks. Oh. Hi.
Hi. How are you?
Good. We're just seeing each other really for
Haven't seen you all day.
Haven't seen you all day. He literally just walked in the door. So,
Yeah.
Hi guys.
It's good to be back.
Sorry for 2 weeks off, but we're glad to be back.
Yeah.
And we missed you all. We missed the in-depth conversations and you guys joining in and your awesome questions. Hey, Kendall. Hey, Megan. We're glad you're with us. Hey. So tonight,
jump right in.
It's a hot topic.
It is hot.
It's hot
And
because it's loaded.
And it's really hot outside today.
Yeah, you look like you're sweaty hot.
It was hot today.
Okay.
Somebody told me today, my friends Andy and Barbara said, yeah, but it's not a humid hot. I'm like, it's hot. It doesn't matter if it's humid.
It was humid. It was very humid.
Humid or hot. It's hot as hot, right? That's what I think.
It was yucky.
But this is a hot topic, right?
This is a hot topic, not for hot and spicy reasons, but
broken trust.
Broken trust, because everyone experiences it to some degree. And so whether it's a tiny fracture or it's repeated wounds or a massive crisis, we can experience broken trust in marriage, in relationships, with our partner, and it has consequences.
It does.
So we're going to talk about that. We are going to start off with a little fun matching game.
Yeah, because the topic is so big, this is just an idea to see, kind of gauge to see where we're at.
Where we're at. So you guys get to see where we're at. If we line up, great, good. Hopefully we line up. But
the question was, what are 3 things we each do on our own to be intentional with healing and restoring trust and maintaining it?
Maintaining and building.
Maybe you're in a great spot right now, and you're working towards maintaining your relationship and building, adding on to those layers of trust. But this is a good exercise just to think about. What are 3 things that you're doing intentional? And maybe if you're not doing it yet, it's a good reflection and a good exercise to just think about. Well, okay, what can I do? So, do you want to go first? I mean, I'll share one and then you share one. Okay. Or did you want to read mine and I'll read yours?
No, you share one and then I'll share one.
Okay.
What do you do?
I said that I let you know what I'm thinking. And or feeling.
Yeah. Is that easy for you as a guy?
No, that's really, really hard. For me, it's easy for me to just be inside my head. Like I'll have a thought or an in-depth thought on something regarding even our family or structure here, and I'll just keep it to myself, just because I'm kind of islandy like that.
You are very internal processor.
Yeah. But so as a way for me to be intentional with letting her in to see what's going on here and in here, I'll share it, which is hard to do, but I'll force myself to do it.
Yeah, and that's been really helpful over the years because it lets me know where we stand. And as a chick, I often want to make up my own narrative and make assumptions about why he's doing what he's doing or who he's talking to and what they mean to him. Or, I mean, my mind can go anywhere. And so when you let me in on what you're thinking and feeling, I don't have to come up with it. I can believe. I can choose to believe.
Yeah.
Okay.
What do you got?
All right. Out the gate. Ready? Conscious barriers with the opposite gender.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So we made a decision in the beginning of our marriage.
That was right. That was right out the gate.
That was actually in dating. We decided that we wouldn't have alone time with the opposite sex.
No. And if it is in a work environment where other people who know us are around.
Yeah.
Because you're going to have those. You're going to have one-on-one interactions with the opposite sex.
Yeah, you can't avoid it completely. Right.
Nor is this. We're not. We're not Quakers. I don't know if
We're
Quakers
not
do that.
Quakers?
If you're a Quaker, I'm sorry. I don't know where that came from.
Gosh, we're not Quakers.
That bad.
But I don't think that one is natural for a lot of people, actually, because I think and not that everyone needs to do it that way.
That's true. Not everybody needs to do that. This works for us.
This works for us.
For us to protect our foundation and our perimeter.
Yeah.
If that doesn't work for you, that doesn't have to work for you.
Right.
We're not saying that, but this is work for us.
Yeah.
And so, because it helps us, it helps us know that,
Well, I don't have to be worried about
where the relationship could go.
Right, where it could go. And I am aware that we're in agreement about this. And so therefore I trust, because when we're in agreement, we've said this is what we're both working towards. And so I also then trust, like hopefully you trust, that if I end up having a private conversation in an environment that isn't public with a male, I'm going to come tell you about it. Mm-hmm. Not because I've done anything wrong.
No, I mean, you in your profession, you see male clients behind closed doors, but there's nobody else.
Yeah.
So I have to trust you with that, and that's so it's going to happen. It's
going to happen, but it is one thing that we're conscious about, or that I'm conscious about, in order to maintain trust with you, so that you don't have to doubt and wonder.
Yeah, like I will never wonder who we should have lunch with today.
Right, or who I'm having private direct messages or Facebook messages with.
Yep.
You don't ever have to wonder about that.
I don't ever have to wonder, and you don't have to wonder.
No.
And I will say this has been if you have not experienced this in your marriage, like, I would just pray that you get the opportunity to experience this, because it's so liberating to not
have to wonder.
This isn't freaking high school. Like, you shouldn't have to be wondering, like, she at lunch with somebody that maybe then causes you just build up a narrative in your mind. Even though maybe it's harmless.
Yeah, totally.
Maybe it is harmless.
Yeah.
But our enemy will work wonders with our heads and try and make everything turn against itself if he can do that.
Yeah, for sure.
And so this is one way for us to protect that.
Did you have that one on yours?
No, I didn't.
But you do it.
Yes, there's more than 3 things.
Okay, well, I would just say... Okay, moving on. Your turn.
Kristen,
it's not Quaker High School. Oh, sorry.
If anybody is
Quaker
watching this, I'm really sorry.
All right, go.
My second one, we make decisions together.
We make decisions together.
Yeah.
How does that increase trust that deepens our intimacy?
Okay, I'm not going to go buy a $1,000 TV. You know that's never going to happen.
Yep.
I'm not just going to show up in the
And
yard.
if it does, it's going back to the store.
I'm not just going to show up with a new car. I'm not going to be out with my friends till 2 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
One, not without having discussed it ahead of time.
He can go out till 2 a.m. I don't decide that.
But our marriage is our primary goal.
Yes.
The foundation of our home is here. Mm-hmm. And so if our decisions are only based on feeding my needs and what I think is best, then I'm not working on this, the strengthening this. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I might think I'm doing the things that are best. So I think that, by tabling everything goes to this table and we make the decisions together is a way of building and reinforcing trust,
and I think as a woman that increases intimacy for me, because I feel like I can be vulnerable with you and I feel like you're safe and secure. And when I feel like you're safe and secure, I want to be intimate with you. It helps me feel more attracted to you, for sure.
Are you referring to intimacy as sexual relations?
He just waits for opportunities to say it like that. It's awkward for everyone. Okay, you ready?
Yeah, go.
Okay. Number 2 for me, practicing truth-telling.
Yeah.
I think you call it confession.
Yeah, okay.
You are very good at practicing confession.
Yeah.
And for me, it's about just making sure that I'm being honest with my emotions. I'm not just saying I'm fine when I'm not.
Yep.
And if I'm feeling afraid of something, if I'm feeling tempted by anything, even, to make sure that I'm telling you what those temptations are and what those fears are, so that the enemy doesn't have a foothold in our relationship. Because anything that's kept in silence, it can fester. It doesn't mean that everything I have to say, right? Like, some things I have to work through first and determine whether they're worth
Yeah, say that again.
saying. Some things, because you want me to remember that?
No, I think that's a really important point.
Yeah, I mean, you don't blurt out everything, because that could be harmful to trust. I mean, you have to regulate your emotions, and so you can't be responding to just emotion. You have to, whether you're male or female, think about it, consider the consequences of it, and then confess. That part, the after part, not the initial part. Now, there's some obvious things, like if you have, stepped out on your marriage, or you are tempted to step out on your marriage, these are things you should be discussing pretty quickly. But if it's more like, I've been holding on to this and I'm bitter about it, I really need to pray about it first. I really need to think it through. Why is it an issue for me? And am I going to hurt you more than help you and help us if I keep coming back to it, and just because it's the truth of how I feel? So that's...
Yeah.
So there's some things that are absolutes, and then there's other things that are like emotion regulators first.
Yeah.
But practicing being truthful.
Yeah, because in the process you're not letting, I found, I'm not going to say you, I found that I'm not letting darkness take root.
Mm-hmm.
So by exposing it, that's a principle, and I love this principle in the Bible. There's a principle that says when you that light cannot, or darkness cannot exist where light is, and so it's by shining a light on it, darkness loses its power. So anyway, as we're kind of talking about this, if you guys have any ideas or thoughts, write them down.
Or if you've experienced it, or you've tried one of these and it's like not working in your marriage, and you want to process that, feel free to write that out, because it took us, like, just because these are the things we're doing doesn't mean they happened right away and that they worked right away.
Yeah, no. It takes work.
It takes work. Your turn. It's your last one.
Oh, this is a good one.
This is a good one. It's your own one.
I encourage you to pursue passions, and I show interest along the way.
Oh, that's kind of like my last one.
Oh.
We actually have a match.
All right.
Mine is practice affirming you.
Oh, you write it so techie.
Because I'm a clinician. I'm a therapist.
Therapeutically.
That's what I do.
Therapeutically.
Well, yours makes more sense.
I know. I love how you wrote it.
I practice affirming you.
Yeah, I encourage you to pursue your passions, and I express interest along the way.
Yeah. You do.
Yeah,
like speaking at conferences,
speaking engagements, or writing.
Mm-hmm. 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 Why? Why does that deepen intimacy? And how does that build trust?
Well, when we were dating, Adele wanted me to go to yoga with her. Now, I thought this was the biggest cheeky thing in the world, and I was like, come on.
Do it.
But I did it, and I actually enjoyed it. But I think it was there, or somewhere along the lines, she said this to me, it's always stuck with me: couples who work out together stay together. And I thought about that. I was like, oh, that's cool. Not necessarily because couples who are working out will mean that they'll stay together. It was the principle that, it's a shared interest.
Right.
And so if you have shared interests, even if the other person might not necessarily gravitate towards that interest,
right.
But if you can get there,
right, you're
going to have, you're just the field for, what am I saying? That's like
I think Rob and Kristen Bell in Zim, in their book, they talk about how longevity in marriage is a major contributor is shared interest, because when it's not that you need to do everything together, you are your own identities. And on the June 30th event, that's something we're going to be talking about, how you are your own person and he or she is their own person and the marriage is a unit. And we're going to explain that. But what they talk about is that it promotes longevity because it establishes that there's this divine connection between the two of you, and so you're working together towards common goals and common interests, and so you're building trust that you see your partner being productive towards something you've agreed upon. And so then therefore you feel like you can rely and count on them, and it protects you from having your eyes go other places, and it increases opportunities for you to be attracted to your spouse. I mean, I'm not going to stay attracted to you if I'm not around you. You know, and if I don't get opportunities to see what God's doing in your life, it's going to make me less aware and less attracted to your soul self and what God's doing in you.
Yeah. So I'll give an example with this. It's been, I love writing music and I'm super passionate about it. And if I'm not careful with that passion and if I'm not intentional to like bring her along with me in it can feel like, and it has felt like, and I know that this has happened, it's felt like I'm leaving her in the kind of in the dust as I chase after this cool thing that I'm
like an
passionate
affair
about. No,
in the past, because let me explain that. In the beginning of our relationship, because you're such an artist and you're such a passionate person, you could go so deep into your own world with something that I felt so completely left out of it that I wasn't as much of a priority as that passion.
Yes.
And that hurt because I was lonely. And I wanted to know what was happening in that part of you.
And so it has taken me, and that's part of the process of letting you in to know what I'm thinking.
Mm-hmm.
But then the shared interest to bring you along to be able to experience it with me,
mm-hmm.
Which is, I don't have it perfect by any stretch of the imagination. I know that I still need to work at it, and I'm still working at it. But that's just an example.
Yeah.
So
So speaking of that, and you guys feel free to write in with this too, is there's lots of ways that trust gets broken. And, one of the things that as a therapist that I encounter a lot is, what are your guidelines in your marriage for navigating social media and navigating Instagram, Facebook messaging, all those platforms basically, and all of the apps out there. I mean, swipe left. So what is how do you encounter that in your marriage, and has that been something that's caused fractures in your marriage and your relationship? What do you do about it? Because it's like you can't be married in 2018 and not deal with the fact that you have anything you want that your mind can imagine at your fingertips. And so there's a temptation right there to break trust. And so what do you do with that? What have we done? Crickets from the crowd on that one. Katie said, and when you believe your partner wants what is best for you, that strengthens your trust for them. Girl, you after my own heart. I miss you and love you, by the way. But yes, that's something you are hitting home on. With our June 30th event, we talk much about how believing your spouse has your best interest in mind. And it's not something that comes off just evidence alone, but it's a cognitive resolution that you yourself have to come to. So for sure.
Yeah, and that's just another amazing thing. Like if you've not experienced this in your marriage, like figure out how to how do you get to a place where you know that your spouse believes the best in you?
Yeah.
And 100% believes in you.
Yeah.
And furthermore, maybe that's the first time you've ever heard this thought, and it's like, oh, I had not thought about that before. Well, let that be a motivator, maybe, because I know that guys need that. Guys need our wives. We need our wives to know that they believe in us. Know that.
You need to know I believe in you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. The other piece of it is that, when we said this is a hot topic, oh, look at you, Kitty, you on fire. Knowing each other's passwords. Rarely even needing to use them, but simply knowing that your partner has access is a cognitive safeguard. Whew. That's so good. Yes. One time there was
Yeah, you should have a password document. Yes.
You just don't even, I know all your passwords.
Don't say it because I'll have to redo them all.
One time you did, remember you shared my password in front of multiple people?
No, you did it to me.
Oh. Whoops. Yeah, but I think this was a really interesting moment. So there was an old friend of mine who was explaining a situation where she went to go look at her spouse's phone, and he quickly pulled it away. And her reaction was like, what would be the cause of that? Like, how, what could possibly cause him to respond that way? Shouldn't we be able to look at everything with each other? There should be nothing on your phone that I can't see. And, his response was, it's just I'm just texting with another guy about stupid guy stuff. And so I was like, let me just ask Tony, do you remember this? And I was like, Tony, why would he do that? Is there ever a reason? And Tony immediately, he was like dead sense, and he was like, yeah, that's suspicious. Like, just straight up, that's suspicious.
Yeah, sorry, dude, if you're listening.
Yeah, sorry. But
suspicious.
Yeah. And so, and again, this is how we function. It doesn't mean it's how you need to function, but I think Katie brings up a really good point. There's some cognitive safeguards that help establish trust and secure your intimacy and empower it.
Yeah, like I'll give you a good one with social media, regarding social media. Like, I'm not alone with my phone at night if Adele goes to bed.
Yep.
And here's why. It's because I don't need to be checking my email for work, so I don't need that.
Mm-mm.
I'm not calling anybody, so I'm not going to be calling anybody. So the only thing to do is be tempted, because literally all you have to do is turn on YouTube, and you're just going to be tempted to start watching stuff you don't need to watch, which then just leads you down a rabbit trail if you're not careful.
Right.
So that's just one way. But
do you think it's helpful for you to make that decision as a man in this marriage, that it's been helpful for you to make that decision because I'm a woman who doesn't have a problem being sexual? Like, I kind of dealt with my junk, my hurts from my past and all of that, and I had come into our marriage from a perspective like of sexual wholeness, not saying I've got it nailed, but like that I was aware that it needed to be whole and healthy. So do you think because you have a wife who is like pursuing you sexually that it makes it easier for you to make that decision? Because I hear in counseling a lot, if she gave it to me more, or if she showed that she wanted it more, or she didn't reject me more, then, not saying that equals sexual brokenness, because there's multiple reasons that happens in marriage, but do you think that makes it easier for you to make that decision, or other reasons? Now the topic's getting hot.
No. I'll think about that.
Because
it's so hard to say.
Because do you think that if our relationship was still in a place where...
Well, no, because I'm still bound by integrity. I'm still bound by
there you go.
my own core values. Your own core values. So if I compromise my own core values, that's on me. That's not about So to put the behavior back onto you is. Well, it's not going to pass.
That's why you are an evolved human, Tony Martell. That's rare. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Same.
Well, no, I think that's really important, because I think our human nature seeks to justify the validation of our own giving in to temptation. Does that make sense? Our human nature seeks to justify when we give in to temptation. And so...
Well, I think it goes with... You could... This example would work in any context.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, well, I have a right to go out and...
steal because I'm poor and I don't have food, right, and I need to feed my family.
Yeah, I would. I'm okay with that. So that one
You're learning so much about us.
To take revenge on somebody because I've been wronged.
Right.
Right.
So my needs aren't being met. Therefore, the grass is greener on the other side, and I need to meet. I'm a guy. I need to meet my needs. Yeah. But girls do this. Girls do this too. So I'm just using you as an example because you're here, and it's easy to use. You're right here. Yeah. But I think it works both ways, right? So women look at pornography. Women surf dating websites and apps, and they don't have that resolve you're discussing. Has to be a personal resolve, not a resolve that is because of what your spouse is doing for you, although that helps because then you feel partnered, right? Yeah. So what do you do when trust is broken? What happens? How do you rebuild intimacy in a relationship where there's been repeated small fractures of the same trespass or a major wound, like a one-time affair, or someone who has repeatedly had private messages with another female, or she's had repeated messages with another male, or met a guy for lunch repeatedly, and they're building an emotional relationship. So maybe it hasn't become sexual, but it's become emotional. Like, can you come back from that? Can a relationship come back from that? Oh, you're being so quiet.
Yeah, I'm being quiet.
Why are you being
because
quiet?
I didn't know if maybe somebody else wanted to respond.
He wants you guys to answer that. What do you think?
I mean, of course it can come back.
Yeah.
Of course it can. But
it hurts like hell.
But we need help along the way. We need people that can come alongside us and encourage us, that can walk us through it. People that are a good counselor. And it takes a resolve. It really takes a resolve. A shift has to happen spiritually and cognitively, where our behaviors are going to match what we're saying. We're going to put our money where our mouth is, and we're going to you have to make changes. So yes, it can be done. It takes time, and it's gonna take patience.
Is that a song, or you just made that up?
It is a song.
It does take patience, and I also think it takes perseverance, because it's whoever's been trespassed against has to understand. I like what Ray's saying. I think you can come back for sure with open communication, commitment, and time. Girl, you summed that up beautifully. Yes. And it's a process. It's a total process that then, like, your things have to keep happening over and over and over to build evidence and to reestablish trust. And, when I'm working with couples where there's been unfaithfulness, oftentimes I'll say to them, how long was unfaithfulness present in your relationship? And they might say, off and on for the past 2 years. And I'll say, okay, so let's double that. So for the next 2 years, you're going to be working on reestablishing new behaviors. And then 2 years after that, you're actually going to be really working on reestablishing your trust. Mm. So, you've got to double it and then the other thing, and this is really harsh and people might not like to hear this, but if you've had an affair, if you are in a relationship where an affair has taken place, whether it's emotional or it's physical, the person who's been trespassed against has to understand that, and this might get kickback, but bear with me, I've seen this happen. You have to understand that even though your spouse has recommitted to you and is working towards coming back to the center with you, there were heartstrings there, whether they were genuine or they were idealized, fantasized. There still is an emotional connection there that has to get rewired. And so they're going to mourn. They're going to mourn that was their escape. They're going to mourn that was their coping skill for stress. They're going to mourn the friendship that they may have had with that person. And when you are the person who's been walked out on or hurt or trespassed against, nothing about you wants to be patient with that process. That's ugly. That sucks. But we're humans and we build these attachments. And so you have to recognize going into it, if you're saying, I'm not going to leave you because of what you did, I'm going to stay with you, that is part of your responsibility, and you're going to have your own mourning process that you need your spouse to be faithful and committed to letting you have. But you can't deny that piece, because if you try to ignore that and say you don't get to have that because of what you did, you're denying a human element of relationship. And then you're not really being truthful with each other about what's happening. Nobody likes to talk about that one. Sorry, I have to talk about it. Cindy.
No, it's good. You bring a good therapeutic perspective to it. It's tough, it's hard.
Well, it's just that I see that happen, and I see couples that don't want to acknowledge that piece of the trespasser's mourning of what they're saying, I'm not going to go back to, or I'm not going to do anymore. And so they deny them a human grievance. Cindy said, I think it helps when there is clear responsibility taken, no justifications or excuses, and getting back to integrity like Tony said before. Yes, for sure. I think I love what you hit home about there, Cindy, is clear responsibility taken with no justification or excuses, right?
You own it.
You own your stuff. Yeah. You own it. And like you were saying earlier, not putting it back on, well, I can do that because she does this, or I do this because she doesn't do this, and vice versa. Yeah, definitely. I think that's huge. Yeah. One of the things that Tony and I often talk about with couples where there has been broken trust, whether small or large, is that every decision from this point forward, if it's one in the right direction, it's in the right direction. And that might seem overly simplistic, but from this moment forward, if there has been broken trust, if there has been hurt, every decision you make, if it's in the right direction, it's the right direction. And you have to keep going at it regardless of the hurt that you're going to see walked out in your partner, regardless of it.
And even if you don't necessarily see the fruit of it right away.
Right.
You have to one step at a time.
Yeah, for sure. And it does take two to tango. So there are times where, I kind of love and hate that sentence, because there are times where I've seen in counseling where it's like, I'm not quite sure what got you guys to this point where he or she did this. But
I've heard, from a marriage that was on, that came back from the brink, and he was like, I just decided I needed, he was walking away, and she was like, I decided I was going to be the best wife I could be, which I think goes back to the integrity thing.
Yeah.
And
wow,
she was like,
huge.
And this was about my commitment to this marriage. So she resolved herself, and I think the Spirit of God kind of convicted him and brought him back. But so.
How do you deal, Danielle, how do you deal with a partner who has been hurt in the past, but not by the current relationship? Ooh, yes. I feel like you are hitting home on that one, because I have a lot of people that is the situation, that they feel like they're paying the time for a crime they didn't commit.
Yeah.
In their second. So if there was a long-term relationship or a previous marriage, and there's these unresolved wounds, and actually, so one of the things we talk about at the June 30th event is being aware of your own trauma that you bring into your marriage, and how to be self-aware about that, and what to do about it when it happens. So how do you deal with a partner who has been hurt in the past? I think you have to be empathetic and understanding, but at the same time, there needs to be safety for you to communicate and express your needs with clear boundaries, right? So like, just because this happened in the past, you can't be the solution for the future. You guys have to be working towards the same thing together. So if you're trying to like, well, I know that he was cheated on in the past, and so I've got to protect this and do this, you're going to exhaust yourself. That's not partnered in any way. So you guys have to be talking about it regularly, and possibly that partner needs to get help to work through those past traumas, because it's not fair for you to be doing the time for a crime you didn't commit. But we don't go into marriage as perfect people. So one of the things I talk about in counseling, and you've heard me say this, is like, when you get married, you come with wounds. We all come with wounds, whether they're from our parents or they're from past relationships. And it's not Tony's job to heal my wounds. It's not. That's the Lord. The Lord's got to do that. And so it is Tony's job to remember that he is responsible for holding those wounds and being aware of them and not intentionally poking them. So I can't expect him to fix them that I come with. I can't put that expectation on him, but I can definitely expect him to remain sensitive to them and aware of them and not jab at them. And that's really how you partner together to deal with that.
Yeah, I would also add to that, like, it's important that you understand the past relationship, but not live there, but you understand it so that you can then move past it by identifying a common bond that the two of you have and saying, okay, this bond is what makes us different from that other one, so that you can keep your eyes focused on that and say, okay, this is our new foundation. That's like the old. The old is gone. Here's the new. And so kind of that whole, like, recognizing your past trauma and what you bring into the relationship, but also kind of that's the way I found it can help move past it.
I like that. Yeah. You should write that down. He was drawing that. This is his visual for that.
That's what that means.
That's what that means. He was drawing it as okay. Mary, how can you keep trust strong when your significant other's job requires them to be away for varied periods of time from their family? Whoo! Yes. Okay, this is possible. You can do this. Keeping trust strong. So first I would ask you, what's your communication like? And do you have agreed topics that even though there's long periods apart, when you do come together, that you're routinely talking about? So agreed topics that make your family or your marriage function, right? And so one of the things we talk about the June 30th event as well is what several of those routine topics could be for you. That if you're not talking about regularly, you're probably not talking at all. But what's your communication like? And then what are the boundaries that you've agreed upon for when you're apart from each other? And so this is really weird, and I feel weird saying this, but I'm just going to say it because I deal with it in counseling all the time because I see a lot of military couples. Like, sometimes when we get far enough along in counseling, they've been doing marriage work together, they get to a place where it's like, okay, he's about to deploy or she's about to deploy, and they need to even talk about what is sex going to be like, right? So is he allowed to masturbate? Is she allowed? Are they going to try and have phone sex? Like, these are things that they actually you have to talk about these things together. And if you don't, and you just make an assumption, and then he deploys, and then you have unmet needs and unmet expectations. And so I think it's like, it even comes down to that nitty gritty of your intimacy, sexual intimacy, how you plan for that as well.
Yeah. As awkward as it is, it might feel awkward to talk
about. It might feel awkward to talk about, but you have to. Yeah. You have to talk about that. And I think also making sure you communicate with each other what makes you feel most attached before they leave. So like some couples feel most attached with just quality time. Like, we know we need to prioritize the week before you leave, and we need to have sex, and we need to, and if we don't, then I'm going to feel like we didn't secure before you leave. And so talking about like what helps you feel most attached and secure before you have a long period of time apart can be really helpful as well. Yeah. Any thoughts?
No.
That's all you got?
That's all I got. Guys, I hope this was beneficial. Leah Furman, yes to all that.
Yay, Leah. We're glad you agree. Thank you. You're a pro at it. You would know.
Well, thanks for joining in. And
we're sorry it took so long, but we're glad to be back with you. And we'll be back next week on Tuesday as well. So stay tuned. And just want to throw this out there to you. If you, I think our event is coming up. So if you haven't got your tickets, go on and get your tickets. And also, next week will probably be our last Facebook Live discussion prior to the event. So if you have a suggestion of a topic, go on the Second Mile Life page and post your suggestions, because we'd love to hear from you on what you want that last discussion to be about and what you think would be the most important topic for us to hit home with before the June 30th event. So thank you guys for joining. We missed you.
Yeah.
We're glad to be back with you. You guys rock, and we're praying for you. Peace.